Let's discuss Sam Neill. This is another lecture. I'm Alexei. Let's begin with a structural overview of a life that, as it were, braided New Zealand, Ireland, and the United Kingdom into one career and one very distinctive voice.
Hi, I'm Priyanka, and I'm excited to learn more about how one person can be iconic in so many different places at once.
To frame our discussion, Sam Neill is, fundamentally, an internationally renowned actor whose name is anchored in popular memory by Jurassic Park, yet whose corpus ranges widely across independent cinema, prestige television, documentary narration, and even agrarian entrepreneurship. It is important to understand that this breadth is not an accident but a method, a conscious alternation between mainstream visibility and risk-taking work that preserved both relevance and artistic elasticity across 5 decades.
So basically, we can say he is a case study in versatility. He could be a principled scientist one year and then, a chilling antagonist the next.
Precisely. We observe a performer equally at ease in The Hunt for Red October and in The Mouth of Madness, and equally persuasive as Merlin on television and as a reflective guide in the BBC's Space, retitled Hyperspace in the United States. In technical terms, his persona functions transnationally, carrying a recognizably humane steadiness that reads across cultures, which is one reason casting directors repeatedly placed him as the stable axis of ensembles. Moving forward, why this matters now. Neill's career mirrors the maturation of international cinema from the late 20th century onward, when New Zealand and Australia, in dialogue with Britain and the United States, developed porous creative circuits. He demonstrates how an actor can remain bankable while avoiding typecasting, and how, to some extent, documentary voice work can deepen public trust beyond fiction.
And sometimes the quieter contributions get missed, like his narration, or the smaller films that keep an industry lively between blockbusters.
Let's start with the history. Born September 1947 in Omagh, Northern Ireland, he moved to Christchurch in 1954, grew up in New Zealand schools, and eventually held 3 nationalities: New Zealand, Ireland, and the United Kingdom. His screen breakthrough arrived with Sleeping Dogs in 1977, the first New Zealand feature widely screened overseas, which in effect announced to international markets that New Zealand talent could carry a feature reliably. From there, the acceleration is familiar. The Hunt for Red October in 1990, then in 1993, Jurassic Park with Dr. Alan Grant joining global iconography. That same year, he appeared in The Piano, substantiating the versatility claim. Recognition followed. OBE in 1991, the New Zealand DCNZM in 2007, and redesignation as a night companion in June 2022. As a charming footnote, the 1982 Ivanhoe broadcast turned him into a New Year's Day tradition in Sweden for decades. A localized celebrity effect owed more to scheduling than marketing.
It's also striking that he kept returning home. Like with The Dish in Australia, or Perfect Strangers in New Zealand, right? He didn't abandon regional work even after Jurassic Park.
Indeed. And if you will, he cultivated 2 paddocks in central Otago, posting gentle missives from the farm and naming animals after colleagues. He once called wine growing not very economic but satisfying, which is an admirably concise business plan for happiness. A brief personal note. I have long admired the warmth of his narration, From Space to the Pacific, In the Wake of Captain Cook, work that earned him recognition including a Primetime Emmy nomination for Outstanding Narrator. The timbre is curious, lightly amused, and never patronizing, a pedagogical ideal many of us chase in lecture halls. This brings us to three guiding questions for today. First, historically, how did Neill alter the trajectory of New Zealand cinema? Second, counterfactually, what if he had taken over as James Bond? Third, in the present tense of policy and medicine, what is the continuing impact of his advocacy for blood cancer treatments, particularly CAR T-cell therapy? Big question one, Neill's impact on New Zealand cinema. Sleeping Dogs in 1977 was not only a personal breakthrough, but an infrastructural signal, a proof of concept that New Zealand features could travel. He then reinforced this with sustained attention to local and trans-Tasman projects, and crucially, with Cinema of Unease in 1995, a reflective documentary that mapped the anxieties and ambitions of the national screen. Alongside collaborators like Jane Campion, with whom he made the piano, he formed a visible bridge between homegrown storytelling and global distribution.
I'm curious about the early obstacles. In the late 1960s and early 70s, what did an aspiring actor in New Zealand actually face? Like, were there even enough roles to learn from?
It is worth noting the ecosystem was thin, the national industry was nascent, and Neill built craft through university drama societies under directors such as Nio Marsh, then at Downstage Theatre in Wellington, taking small television roles like The City of No in 1971, shorts including The Water Cycle in 1972, and further credits through 1975. The scarcity itself created agility, so when Sleeping Dogs emerged, he was both trained and temperamentally prepared to operate across Australia, Britain, and later the United States, thereby widening the path for those who followed.
And maybe the childhood stammer he talked about also shaped his approach. Like, that kind of empathy and listening can sit under a performance, right?
Arguably, yes. He spoke candidly about a stammer he largely outgrew, and one can reasonably infer that such experience sharpens timing and patience, qualities we see in performances that are restrained rather than showy. In conclusion, Neill helped prove that New Zealand stories and talent could circulate widely while maintaining a visible, ongoing commitment to the region that nurtured him. Big question two. What if Sam Neill had been cast as James Bond? Producers considered him seriously, but the role went to Timothy Dalton. Had Neill accepted the mantle, we can infer several consequences. Franchise obligations might have narrowed his bandwidth for auteur projects, and notably, could have altered or even precluded the timing that led to Dr. Alan Grant in Jurassic Park. More subtly, the Bond apparatus tends to imprint a public identity that can be difficult to recalibrate afterward.
Do you think it would have changed how he acted? Or just the roles he was offered? Like, would the adaptability still shine through?
Theoretically, the underlying craft would remain. He is demonstrably adaptable, moving from Possession to Event Horizon to The Tudors. However, market forces matter. Once branded as Bond, he might have faced a decade of scripts orbiting suave masculinity, with fewer invitations to play a haunted scientist in Event Horizon, or the wry academic in The Dish. His actual career benefited from not being captured by a single archetype, and the alternation between blockbusters and intimate films was, in effect, his long game. Big question three. Neill's advocacy for blood cancer treatments. In March 2022, he was diagnosed with stage 3 angioimmunoblastic T-cell lymphoma. After chemotherapy and a public discussion of remission with ongoing treatment, he underwent CAR T-cell therapy in an Australian clinical trial in April 2026, when chemotherapy ceased to be effective. Subsequently, he reported a scan with no detectable cancer and used his platform to argue for wider access to CAR T in Australia and New Zealand. Despite this reported remission, He died suddenly in July 2026, age 78, and was reported to be cancer-free at the time.
Can we maybe now look at the current status? Like, in Australasian contexts, what is the realistic path for broader access to CAR-T? Is it scaling up trials, funding, or something else?
In simpler terms, all of the above. CAR-T is a specialized immunotherapy requiring infrastructure, trained teams, and sustainable funding. His advocacy elevated public awareness, which is not trivial in policy cycles that respond to salience. Moving forward, the research community points to wider clinical trial capacity, equitable pathways for eligible patients, and investment to integrate such therapies into standard care where evidence supports it. Neill's story supplied a human narrative to a technical frontier, and that combination tends to shift discussions from abstract cost to concrete lives.
It makes me wonder how his public warmth helped. People listened because he never sounded alarmist, just clear and gentle.
Yes, that same voice that guided viewers through the cosmos in space helped guide them through oncology. Consistency of tone across domains is, arguably, part of his legacy. To summarize, Sam Neill was an international leading man who balanced Jurassic Park scale with auteur and genre risk, who helped carry New Zealand cinema into wider circulation, who would have lived a different artistic life had he been James Bond, and who in later years brought attention to advanced blood cancer treatments with clarity and grace. For those studying film histories, a related avenue is the evolution of New Zealand cinema from Sleeping Dogs onward, including the interplay of local identity and global markets. Thank you for listening. As always, we encourage further reading, viewing, and if you will, a glass of Central Otago Pinot Noir in his honor, purely for methodological purposes.
Thank you, Alexei. That was helpful to think through, actually.